Hello fellow gamers! I have found even more incredible, weird, and absolutely beautiful demos from Steam Next Fest 2026. So, grab a drink, get your wishlist fingers ready, and let's dive into the indie goodness. Crown Siege, a title that bridges the gap between casual progression and intense strategy. At its core, this is a short, highly focused, incremental tower defense game. Instead of just placing static turrets and watching the numbers go up, your primary goal is the growth, management, and ultimate strength of your own standing armies. You will be managing resources to reinforce your kingdom's walls while training diverse units to clash directly with the relentless hordes at your gates. It perfectly nails that dopamine hit that makes the incremental genre so addictive, yet it demands enough tactical foresight to keep strategy fans hooked. If you love watching a tiny garrison evolve into an absolute powerhouse of a military force, this demo is an easy recommendation. Space Scavenger 2, a high-octane, top-down action roguelite that leans heavily into the absolute joy of broken mechanics. The gameplay traps you in a paradoxical time loop, forcing you to scavenge cosmic wreckage to build the most outlandish modular spaceships imaginable. What makes this sequel stand out is its commitment to absurd synergies. You aren't just slotting in standard weapon upgrades, you are snapping together bizarre components to create overpowered builds that feel like you've successfully broken the game's code. When you inevitably blow up, you carry that hard-earned knowledge into the next round to hone your piloting abilities further. It's fast, incredibly satisfying, and a dream come true for theory crafters. Aksun, a hack-and-slash roguelite that stands out immediately thanks to its rich roots in Korean shamanism. You are tasked with descending into the pitch-black shadows of Aksun to break a cursed eternal cycle, and the gameplay is as fluid as it is punishing. The star of the show here is the elemental combat system. You aren't just hacking away blindly. Instead, you are chaining together hundreds of elemental artifacts and mystical abilities to trigger massive chain reactions. The visual flair of the Korean folklore art style, combined with the sheer satisfaction of discovering how different curses and blessings interact, makes every run feel entirely unique. It's got that perfect blend of action and cultural identity that indie gaming does best. Skills and Raids, a party-based extraction RPG that sets a remarkably grim stage. The world has fallen into the grasp of an ancient creature capable of erasing everything, even the very thoughts of existence. To fight back, you will lead a squad into real-time, ability-driven combat that demands excellent tactical awareness. Success here hinges on your ability to manage cooldowns under immense pressure while reacting to complex enemy mechanics on the fly. The loop is brilliantly addictive. You drop into dangerous zones, loot precious resources to complete quests, and crawl back out to craft powerful gear. By combining skills across your roster, you can create incredibly unique builds to counter the darkness. It's a deeply satisfying blend of extraction and high-level RPG theory crafting. Orc Incremental, an auto-battler that proves you don't need complex controls to deliver an incredibly satisfying power trip. You start your journey with a single, lonely orc, but through ruthless progression, you will eventually build an unstoppable dark army capable of conquering the entire realm. The strategy lies in perfecting your unit formations, unlocking powerful upgrades, and summoning massive, mythical beasts to tear through enemy defenses. Because it's an incremental game, hitting a wall is just an invitation to trigger a rebirth, allowing you to return significantly stronger for the next campaign. It's the perfect kind of game to leave running on a second monitor, delivering a constant stream of progression, satisfying tactical adjustments, and the sheer joy of watching a green tide steamroll enemy troops. The Sinking City 2. Developed by Frogwares, this highly anticipated sequel abandons much of the detective-forward focus of the original to double down on raw survival horror. Set in the Roaring '20s, the game places you in the drowned, decaying alleys of Arkham, a city completely submerged by a supernatural flood and stalked by the grotesque, twisted remains of the dead. The demo instantly hooks you with its dense, claustrophobic dread. Equipped with limited resources and traditional over-the-shoulder gunplay, navigation via boat between isolated sections feels incredibly tense. It captures that classic survival horror gameplay, managing inventory, exploring red-marked maps, and utilizing safe rooms to equip passive talents. It's dark, punishing, and heavily steeped in Lovecraftian dread, forcing you to weigh a single human life against the fate of an entire city. Chained Beasts, a chaotic up to 4-player co-op gladiator roguelike that takes the concept of teamwork and literally binds you to it. You and your friends enter the arena physically chained to one another, turning what should be a hindrance into your ultimate weapon. The combat is delightfully funny. You'll be using the chains themselves to clothesline enemies, yank partners out of danger, or use the deadly arena hazards to beat up foes in creative ways to win over the bloodthirsty crowd. Between managing the physics-based chaos, you also have to endure severe physical and mental injuries that persist across runs, adding a brilliant layer of roguelike strategy. It's a hilarious party game that will test your communication, your coordination, and probably a few friendships along the way. Legion Breaker. This is a short, highly active, incremental game that flips the script on the genre by putting you squarely on the defensive against overwhelming undead hordes. You start from absolute scratch, but you quickly scale up by wielding a massive arsenal of devastating spells and raising a holy army to hold the line. The game keeps you constantly engaged as you fight across ever-expanding battlefields, ensuring it never feels like a passive idler. The real draw here is the massive skill tree, allowing you to fine-tune your progression and transform your lone survivor into the ultimate battle mage. If you love incremental progression but still want to feel like an active, powerful force on the field, this is well worth a look. Enginefall, a player-driven crafting shooter that introduces an incredibly unique setting, colossal, post-apocalyptic megatrains. Whether you are jumping in solo or with friends, you start right at the bottom in the slums of the train's tail, tasking you with scavenging, crafting, and fighting your way up to first class. The gameplay combines elements of risky extraction with localized survival mechanics. You seize better gear car by car, pushing forward through intense, claustrophobic firefights before escaping back to your personal dagger shuttle to secure your high-value loot. Upgrading your own customizable rolling fortress on the rails feels incredibly rewarding. It captures a brilliant sense of momentum and progression, wrapped up in a gritty, locomotive premise that stands out as truly fresh. Dumbriel, Magnificent Adventure in Hell, a charming 2D Metroidvania action-adventure that injects a delightful dose of humor into the underworld. You play as a remarkably clumsy fallen angel, navigating a beautifully twisted version of hell, complete with weird monsters and incredibly creative, hellish traps. The gameplay is tight and traditional. You slash your way through deadly arenas, dodge erratic hazards, and craft gear to expand your options. The clumsy nature of the protagonist gives the platform and combat a unique, slightly physics-based quirkiness that keeps you on your toes. Naturally, you will die a lot, but every failure allows you to upgrade your abilities and dive back into the depths stronger than before. It's got great art, snappy controls, and a wonderful personality that sets it apart from more self-serious Metroidvanias. Deep Dish Dungeon, a survival exploration game that serves up a brilliant mix of genres. Playable either solo or in online co-op multiplayer, it drops you into a handcrafted dungeon filled with intricate puzzles, dangerous traps, and mysterious secrets hidden in the deep. The gameplay smoothly integrates Metroidvania progression with survival and crafting elements. You aren't just fighting monsters, you are actively scouting for resources to craft the gear needed to bypass environmental roadblocks and explore deeper layers. The handcrafted nature of the map means every corridor feels intentional, rewarding observant players who love solving environmental riddles. It's a wonderful, atmospheric adventure that feels fantastic to unravel alongside a friend. Fading Echo, a fast-paced elemental action-adventure RPG that stands out thanks to its highly creative approach to combat. You play as One, a young legend tasked with saving a dying desert landscape from a reality-warping threat known as the Paradox Corruption. The core mechanical hook here is your ability to manipulate water. You aren't just slinging spells. You can seamlessly transform into a living drop of water to surf through pipes, slip through cracks, and crash down on enemies. The game encourages high levels of player creativity by letting you mix your water forms with environmental elements like lava or toxic waste to trigger explosive chain reactions. Combined with shifting, surreal dimensions that alter the rules of engagement, it's a brilliant, highly dynamic ride. Iron Frontier, a single-player tower defense roguelite that brilliantly channels the nostalgic spirit of classic real-time strategy. If you miss the visual charm and grit of retro RTS games, but don't want to deal with stressful actions per minute demands and micromanagement, this is going to be right up your alley. In every mission, you draft a fresh, autonomous army from a randomized pool of over 60 units, including infantry, heavy tanks, and mechs. The strategy lies in positioning them to trigger powerful synergies that completely melt enemy lines. Beyond the tactical base defense and full-scale counter-assaults, the game forces you to make heavy moral choices that directly splinter the campaign trail towards 6 distinct endings. It is a fantastic, time-respecting blend of tactical depth and old-school warfare aesthetics. Loot Frog, an incremental action bullet hell that completely flips the genre on its head by keeping you fully active. Instead of standard auto-battling, you are actively dodging projectiles, breaking pots like a chaotic amphibian link, and fighting off a sinister, evil cult. The core appeal lies in its sense of permanent progression. There are no resets or idle elements here. Every gem you collect fuels permanent gear upgrades and new abilities across diverse, increasingly challenging biomes. It strikes a brilliant balance between high-reflex bullet hell evasion and that deeply satisfying incremental power creep where you start out small and rapidly transform into an unstoppable force. It is incredibly charming, tightly designed, and perfect for anyone who loves rewarding action. Windrunners, a high-speed bullet hell dogfighting roguelite that delivers absolute kinetic thrill. You start your journey as a lone pilot, transforming every single flight into an intense, high-stakes fight for freedom against a ruthless, techno-theist oppression known as the Realm. You are constantly weaving through dense curtains of neon fire, taking on massive enemy fleets and squaring off against truly colossal bosses that test your reflexes to the absolute limit. What makes this game so engaging is the macro progression. Your victories in the cockpit actively ignite and fuel a growing resistance movement across the star system. It perfectly blends the white-knuckle tension of a classic arcade shoot-'em-up with the strategic, empowering growth of a modern roguelite. Loot Dungeon, a dark fantasy, incremental roguelite action RPG where death isn't a failure, it's your primary means of progression. You'll be crawling through punishing, atmospheric dungeons, collecting loot, and selecting powerful perks, fully expecting to die so you can return significantly stronger. The game strikes a fantastic balance between active dungeon crawling and rewarding incremental loops. Every demise allows you to go deeper, unlock entirely new character classes, and purchase permanent upgrades. The most compelling hook is the choice to make a literal deal with death, trading away your current run for massive, long-term benefits. If you love dark fantasy and the highly addictive game of starting weak and slowly crafting an unkillable character, this demo is well worth your time. Forsworn, an incredibly promising turn-based tactics roguelite developed by Resummon Studios. If you love the deep tactical grid combat of Divinity Original Sin 2 or XCOM, but want it packaged into a highly replayable run-based format, this is definitely one to watch. You command a party of heroes on a desperate mission to overthrow a pantheon of tyrannical gods. The core gameplay revolves around forging absurd, game-breaking synergies across your squad using a massive pool of items and unique hero abilities. What's even better is that it features online co-op with simultaneous turns, keeping the tactical pacing snappy and engaging when playing with friends. Defeat drops you back at the start, but with permanent progression to unlock, every failure feels like a stepping stone to eventually slaying a god. Cloudbreaker, a fascinating mashup from Ballast Games that mixes a roguelite bullet heaven with an inventory management puzzle system. You're exploring a beautiful yet dangerous sky world, diving through the clouds to gather resources while fighting off massive waves of biotechnological enemies. The real brilliance here lies in how you power up your airship. Instead of a standard stat menu, your ship features an engine grid. Every component, weapon, and engine part you scavenge must be fitted manually into this grid, highly reminiscent of a backpack hero. How you organize your cargo hold dictates your combat efficacy, allowing you to trigger highly satisfying spatial synergies. With multiple unlockable airships, distinct grid layouts, and plenty of relics to discover, it turns the frantic chaos of a survivor's like into a brilliantly tactile, thinking man's shooter. Dunebound Tactics, a roguelite turn-based tactical RPG that drops you right into a harsh, unforgiving desert world. You are tasked with leading a weary band of survivors across treacherous sands in search of a new home, balancing brutal tactical skirmishes with desperate resource survival. The combat here is deeply strategic, forcing you to battle ruthless factions while actively manipulating the desert terrain to gain high ground advantages or create choke points. Outside of combat, the stakes remain incredibly high. You'll have to scavenge for dwindling supplies and make heavy, narrative-driven life-or-death choices that directly impact the fate of your crew. It captures a fantastic sense of journey and desperation, perfect for fans of punishing tactical games who love a heavy dose of survival tension mixed into their grid-based combat. Dicevaders, a clever dice-based roguelike deck builder developed by Penguinauts and published by Playstack. Flipping the script on its predecessor Starvaders, this spin-off puts you in charge of leading the ultimate alien invasion to wipe out humanity. The brilliant twist here is how the game handles randomness. Dice aren't just left to pure chance. Instead, they serve as your primary tactical resource. Using mechanics like Chrono to restock the shop and Budge to actively manipulate your dice rolls, you can carefully engineer the exact numbers you need. By arranging your dice row into pairs, triples, or quadruples, you place powerful invaders onto a grid to spark devastating, high-scoring chain reactions. It takes the stress out of bad luck and focuses entirely on satisfying, math-breaking synergy. Hope01, a single-player extraction survival RPG developed by Bending Boy Games. If you love the tense thrill of games like Escape from Tarkov, but want it packaged into a moody, narrative-driven labyrinth, this one is absolutely worth keeping your eye on. You wake up in a rapidly deteriorating underground facility known as the Hab Cluster, tasked with answering a mysterious request to find the legendary Hab-01. The gameplay perfectly balances classic looter-shooter mechanics with deeply atmospheric survival elements. You'll weave through interconnected corridors, help survivors, and experiment with over 70 weapons and gadgets to build a custom kit that suits your playstyle. The real mechanical twist? You can scan the gear you successfully extract, allowing you to fabricate and print it back at your hideout later to prepare for major boss runs. With multiple endings that dictate the ultimate fate of humanity, it's a wonderfully gripping solo adventure. The Severed Gods, a fantasy roguelite RPG that tells a grand, cyclical tale of legendary heroes reincarnating across generations to stop the cataclysmic mystic dragon Umbra. The standout feature of this turn-based combat system is the literal severing mechanic. When squaring off against giant bosses, you don't just whittle down a massive health bar. Instead, you dynamically target and amputate specific limbs, wings, or tails, directly disabling the boss's most devastating attacks and changing the flow of the battle. Combined with a rich array of relics and an evolving NPC system where your choices alter how the world treats you in future lives, it delivers a deeply satisfying mix of tactical combat and macro progression. Bonehold, a 3D roguelike dungeon crawler from Pixel Jackal that injects the wild energy of an action RPG right into a dark fantasy labyrinth. If you love classic hack-and-slash combat combined with the unpredictable tension of a roguelike, this one is an absolute blast. You venture deep into an ancient fortress, selecting from a broad roster of character classes, ranging from the stalwart knight and brutal barbarian to the spell-slinging scorcher and agile assassin. The combat plays out with a fast-paced, almost retro shooter intensity as you cleave through hordes of skeletons, ghosts, and massive bosses. True to its action RPG roots, the game keeps you hooked with an incredibly deep, procedurally generated loot system. Every run showers you with randomized weapons, armor, and spells, letting you patch together wild, custom builds on the fly. It features a striking visual style that combines hand-painted textures with modern pixel art, creating an atmosphere that feels both incredibly nostalgic and wonderfully fresh. Calame, a narrative-driven tactical RPG developed by Nextale Games that draws inspiration from the acclaimed fantasy novels of Paul Bjorn. Set in the war-torn kingdom of Westalia, you are tasked with leading an uneasy, highly volatile alliance of two rival rebel factions, Kenmare and the Panthers, in a desperate bid to overthrow the tyrannical King of Light. While the grid-based combat delivers the demanding, handcrafted tactical depth you'd expect from genre classics, Calame Calame introduces a brilliant twist called correction. In this world, collective belief and renown are physical forces. By utilizing a resource known as legend, you aren't just bound to the layout of the map, you can literally rewrite the battlefield mid-combat to collapse bridges, shift terrain, or cut off enemy reinforcements. Your choices outside of battle are just as heavy, forcing you to balance the conflicting ideologies of your factions, which permanently reshapes your squad's stats, relationships, and the story itself. Anomaly President, a highly stylized action roguelite developed by Few Games that has one of the most delightfully unhinged conceptual hooks. In this world, the current administration has pushed society toward disaster using weird, supernatural anomalies, and your mission is to overthrow the administration by leading a revolution. The catch? You aren't just fighting the government, you're running against them. The gameplay splits into a brilliant double life loop. By day, you are a charismatic presidential candidate trying to win the hearts and minds of the public, customizing your mobile campaign bus and managing a team of cute, oppressed creatures called Fluffies to run your political departments. But by night, the game shifts into a twisted hack-and-slash roguelite. You transform into a vigilante warrior, slicing through corrupt syndicate gangs and taking down vice president bosses. Defeating these high-ranking officials lets you absorb their anomaly powers, like stealing the power of heart from the president's PR chief to turn enemies against one another. Whether you build yourself out as a mechanical swordmaster or an anomaly-slinging cyber mage, its mix of dark political comedy and high-octane action is incredibly fun. And that rounds out my third part of absolute standouts from this year's Steam Next Fest. If any of these titles caught your eye, make sure to head over to Steam, download their demos, and get them added to your wish list to support the developers. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another indie gaming breakdown. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.